So, I'm not the kind of person who likes to harp too much on the past. I have a very future forward focused mentality when it comes to life in general. That said, there are a few moments in my life that I really wish I could relive, even if just one time. And one of those moments is the first time I went to Europe. Now, if you don't know the story, let me break it down for you very briefly. Basically, in 2023, my girlfriend moved from the Netherlands to Spain for 5 months for an internship for college. And she went to Valencia, which was a city that she had never been to before. She had no family, no friends out there, no support system, and she was basically there by herself and she was overwhelmed. So I said, you know what? Let me go ahead and go out there and help you get situated. Now, mind you, we had never actually met in person before at this point. Nevertheless, one day we were on FaceTime. I booked that flight, booked the hotels, and maybe about a few weeks or a month later, I was there in Spain. Now, meeting her for the first time was an extraordinary moment that I'm grateful to have documented on my channel. That said, I already kind of knew what to expect when I met her. I knew that I was going to be coming into contact with somebody that I was already very comfortable spending time with. However, being in Europe for the first time, being in Spain in particular for the first time, caught me completely off balance because I had no expectations. Honestly, I wasn't really thinking about what Spain or Europe had to offer. I was so focused on just meeting my girlfriend that I didn't even consider what I was getting myself into by going to Europe. Now, as I mentioned earlier, she was doing her internship, so we didn't really spend that much time together during those 2 weeks that I was there. So I spent a lot of time just kind of exploring by myself. And that was one of the first times in my life that I experienced that degree of culture shock. Even though going to the Netherlands a year later was a very strong culture shock for me, I already kind of knew what to expect. Going to Spain, I had no expectations, so it almost felt like I was stepping onto a different planet. That said, I cannot relive that moment. I can never relive that moment again because now I know that the rest of the world outside of the US is not only different, but in many cases better. So I can never have that initial moment again. But what I can do is I can live vicariously through the people whose videos I will be reacting to today. Because in this video, I'm going to be reacting to American tourists in the wild. Bearing that in mind, let's go ahead and get into this first video about 6 culture shocks he experienced in Spain. How fitting.
These are culture shocks that I've experienced as an American in Spain. Number one has got to be hang drying everything. Everybody over here hang dries everything. I never hang dried anything before, maybe like some swim trunks, but that's about it.
That right there, that was one of the biggest culture shocks for me as well. I didn't know people did that. I literally never saw that back home in the US. It was always washer and dryer. But going to Spain and seeing these high-rise apartments where everyone had the clothesline and they all had clothes drying on the clotheslines, that was very, very fascinating for me.
Very much used to dryers. Number two is water at restaurants. If you go to a restaurant and order water, it is not free over here. In the States, any restaurant you go to, the water is always going to be free, so it's so weird seeing it different here.
Number three is... So the reason why that's the case is because in America, I'm pretty sure there's actually a law that all restaurants have to give you free water. Pretty sure that's a thing because every restaurant I've ever been to, they do provide free water. However, I think the reason why this isn't the case in Europe is because most restaurants in Europe actually make the majority of their profit margin from the drinks rather than the food. So it does make sense, although as someone who drinks a lot of water, I mean, you constantly see me drinking water in my videos. As a matter of fact, drink some water right now. That was a big adjustment for me. Very, very big adjustment.
Is the windows. They're just so much more advanced than the American ones. Watch this. You can easily vent the window by going like this. But wait, I'm not done yet. Then you can push it back in, turn it a little to the right, and then open the window. Okay, and then there's one more thing. You can also have very, very blackout curtains. Just give me a second.
I never saw these in Spain, and I never saw these in the Netherlands. Let me know if you have these where you live, because I've never seen those before, but the windows are definitely something that I think throw a lot of Americans off because I've never seen the tilt windows anywhere in America before. And most windows, they open up and down, not in
Number
and out.
4 is Sundays in Spain. And no, not the ice cream. Everything is closed on Sunday in Spain. Every grocery store, cafe, that's probably the hardest thing to get used to here. It's basically like Chick-fil-A on Sunday, but every single thing. Okay, number 5 is siesta time.
So before he even talks about that, not even so much things closing on Sundays, which I don't even know if that was the case in Valencia, but for me it was that things closed a lot earlier. I remember my girlfriend and I, we were trying to find ingredients to make stampot because she wanted to cook stampot for me. And we were looking for kale. We were going all around Valencia, couldn't find it. But we ended up at this market. If you're from Valencia, maybe you know what market I'm talking about. The big one, the big market. And we get there, it's maybe 2:45 p.m. and they're about to close. They're getting ready to close at 3 o'clock, and I'm pretty sure they were closing for the day. Maybe it was for a siesta, but I think that's a little late for a siesta if I'm not mistaken. So that really, really threw me off. We ended up using broccoli instead, but that was a big culture shock for me.
Most restaurants close from like 1 to 4:30. I think they'd want to be open for those hours because it's like the most popular lunchtime hours, but no, it's nap time over here.
Yeah, really, I get the sense that in Spain, they're not thinking about making the most money. They're thinking about living the best life, which honestly is objectively a better way to approach life, which is why you see people in Spain dancing in the streets and just generally having a good time. On to the next video. Now, this right here is another video about culture shocks after moving to Spain from the USA. So this isn't a tourist, this is somebody who lives there. As a matter of fact, I don't know if this guy right here moved to Spain or not, but this person definitely moved to Spain. Yep. Same thing. Again, I don't really remember the stores being closed on Sunday in Valencia. I'll have to ask my girlfriend about that because obviously she lived there for 5 months, so she'd know better than I do. But I don't really remember that being the case. But yeah, those store hours, that threw me off big time because coming from the US where you have Walmart and Target that close at 11. They used to be 24 hours before COVID, at least Walmart was. You have convenience stores like 7-Eleven, Quick Trip, what else? Racetrack, etc. I mean, those are open 24 hours. So to see that that didn't really exist in Spain, in spite of Spain and Spaniards seeming to have sort of a night owl culture, that kind of threw me off a little bit because people in Spain, I think they eat dinner around 10 p.m., but nothing really opens after that time except for restaurants. That's an interesting juxtaposition right there. On to the next video. Now, I don't know where this one takes place. Maybe it's in Finland. So this is in Finland. Culture shock for Americans in Europe. The look on her face, she is spooked. You know what? I never... Wait, I have to see that again. No, she was spooked. I've never seen that before. I've never seen that in the Netherlands. I never saw that in Spain. Didn't see it in Switzerland either. Where the paper towels are basically just stuck in the thing. And this seems like it's by design. How does that work? Let me know in the comments how that works, because maybe that's just a Finnish thing. Let me know if they have that in your country, first of all. And if they do, let me know how this is supposed to work, because I'm assuming that they clean this inside of the machine. But this is some high-tech advanced stuff, but I'm not gonna lie, this would have thrown me off as well, because that is pretty different. But I guess it is good for the environment. And my girlfriend was telling me that hand dryers are pretty unsanitary. So I guess this is kind of a good compromise, but yeah, let me know how this is supposed to work. On to the next video. Americans in Europe.
What can I get you, sir?
I'll just have a water, please.
Okay, no problem. That will be €2.
You charge for water? I thought America was capitalistic. See, back home, drinking water is a human right.
Yes, but at least we don't charge as much for healthcare. Man, you okay?
He got him there. He got him there. But I will say, two things that really kind of threw me off about Europe are, for starters, they charge for water, which again, I drink a lot of water. I drink about 3 to 6 of these a day. So anywhere from half a gallon to a full gallon, I think that would be something like 1.9 liters to 3.8 liters per day, which is a lot, even by American standards. But because I drink so much water, I also have to pee a lot. So finding out that they charge money for public restrooms in Europe, that threw me off. Granted, it's 90 cents or whatever. It's not that much money, but that's pretty interesting for sure. And I don't know if they do that in all of Europe. They for sure do it in the Netherlands. And I believe the Netherlands is the country that invented capitalism. It all makes sense. When you think about it, it all makes sense. But yeah, that's a pretty minor thing compared to the cost of college and healthcare and the risk of getting gunned down, etc.
Streets are so confusing. The signs are like circles with pictures. There's no roads, just bikes and canals. I'm always getting lost, and I don't speak European, so I can't ask for directions.
Just buy
I don't speak European. Okay, so this person is definitely in the Netherlands then. This is definitely in the Netherlands. He mentioned the bikes and canals. So, yeah, honestly, I don't feel like European streets are that difficult to navigate, though. I really don't. I feel like they're a lot simpler to navigate because there are more landmarks everywhere. But, I don't know. I guess different people's brains work a little bit differently.
Buy a data plan and use your phone.
Yeah, right. I'm not paying an arm and a leg to use Google Maps, alright?
You can get unlimited data here for like 10 euros.
No way. You're telling me healthcare's free and data's basically free too? How does anyone make any money around here then?
Actually, more people make good money because they don't have monopolies that control every industry and get away with price gouging.
He's touching on some deep topics there. Honestly, I'm not even trying to go that deep in this video. But one thing I will say, there's this notion, for whatever reason, that America is the only country where people are getting to a bag. And I was talking about this with my girlfriend earlier. But it's interesting because in America, a lot of the status symbols that people use to signify their wealth to others actually come from Europe. I mean, when people buy designer clothes, for example, they go for what? Louis Vuitton, Gucci, etc. Those are brands that come from Europe. I think Italy, if I'm not mistaken. You have Mercedes-Benz, BMW, and then a step above that, you get to Lamborghini, Ferrari, Rolls-Royce, Range Rover. Those are all European brand cars. So it's kind of interesting that the status symbols that Americans get to signify wealth are all European, and yet at the same time, they think that Europeans are not getting to a bag. Does not make sense. But yeah, you definitely won't see people in the Netherlands struggling in the same way that you see that bottom 5% or even the bottom 10 or 20% struggling in the US. On to the next video. An American driving in the UK country lanes. This is going to be interesting.
This is what it's like driving in the UK. There's only enough room for one car on the road, and it's absolutely terrifying.
I don't see how this is particularly terrifying though, because I don't know what type of car they're driving, but if they're driving a car like this, then there's
Enough room for
more than adequate room to get through, and it seems like a pretty low-speed street. What is terrifying is being in a car here in Thailand where you have roads that are like this, but then you have 5 scooters trying to squeeze through. You have people who, for whatever reason, choose to have big SUVs and trucks driving through streets like this. So you have American type cars driving through roads that look like this, except there are potholes that people are trying to avoid. That's terrifying. And what's also terrifying is being in a wide American road where people are driving 20 miles per hour over the speed limit in those big trucks. That's terrifying. I don't see how this is particularly terrifying or even difficult.
for one car on the road, and it's absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, this seems like a piece of cake. I mean, I'm no professional driver, but I don't see how anyone would struggle with this. One thing I will say, and I don't know, let me actually go back and watch again.
This is what it's like driving in the UK. There's only enough room for one car on the road.
So it seems like all the cars are facing in this direction, which indicates to me that this is a one-way street. That's not particularly difficult to navigate. It's a one-way street. Why would you need any more space than what you have right here? This is wider than your typical lane would be on an American two-way street. So I don't see the problem here. In the Netherlands, they have two-way streets that look like this. And basically, it's only enough room for one car to pass at a time, so you have to pull off to the side to let the other car pass. That, I think, I would struggle a little bit with. I'm sure I could learn how to do it because clearly Dutch people are able to navigate those streets, and I'm pretty sure that's a measure to slow down traffic. But I always think, in the event that there's somebody who's just plain irresponsible, maybe they're driving drunk or whatever, that could be catastrophic. But I guess in the Netherlands, they just assume that drivers are going to be more responsible because the requirements for getting a license are much more stringent, but I digress. On to the next video, and this video right here is a bit of a bonus video. We're actually going to flip the video on its head and look at a European in America instead. POV, you're a European in the US and you went for a walk. So right off the bat, this is LA. I can already tell visually this is Los Angeles. The palm trees, the way the streets look, this is LA. Quintessential LA at that. If you ever wondered what LA looks like, it's not bright lights Hollywood. This is pretty much what LA looks like. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I can already see where this is going. Yeah, you don't really want to walk in LA. LA, I will say, is a little more walkable than, let's say, Dallas, where I grew up, because at least the weather is nice. But when you talk about the distances to get from place to place, you don't want to be walking in LA. And the drivers out there are fucking batshit crazy. They are insane. So you definitely don't want to go out there and use your legs as your primary form of transportation. You're going to want to either rent a car, take Uber, or if you can stomach it, you can try the public transit out there. I found it to be very unreliable and even a bit sketch in terms of the demographic that you see on there. It's a lot of people who are definitely up to no good. Definitely. And that's not even me being overly skeptical. You can just tell when somebody has bad intentions in mind. So honestly, if you're thinking that you're going to go to LA and just walk everywhere, you're going to be in for a rude awakening. This is what it's going to look like. But again, at least the weather's nice. But to me, it is much, much scarier to walk in a place like LA than it is to drive in a place like this. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments below.